My name is Bryan Jacoutot. I'm an attorney with Clark Hill, based here in Atlanta, and I work with a company called Simple Proof, which is part of Todd's open timestamps protocol. And we're here in Georgia attempting to use that protocol in Georgia's elections. And to my left here is Stacy Scott, who is the elections supervisor for Screven County, Georgia, which is over down by Savannah. And Stacy has actually used Simple Proof in the course of providing her duties as the election supervisor over there. And of course, I think everybody here knows Todd. So I don't know if Peter, if you want to start things off, or if we can have Stacy tell about her experience.
Yeah, I'll just say I am technically involved in Simple Proof, not just by making the protocol, but also by being a small investor in there, because it would look kind of embarrassing if I wasn't on the cap sheet. But for the most part, I work independently of them.
Okay, so there we go. Thanks. Okay, so I'm the election supervisor in Screven County, which is a rural county with about 11,000 voters. And in September of last year, I was introduced to Simple Proof at a Bitcoin online meetup, and realized how well it would work in our county. So we were able to get that running really quickly, and we were able to use it in the November elections to secure the election results. And the thing about it was that we were able to do it for $12. It was $12.75. But so the thing is that makes it something that every county can do. If my county can afford to do it, every county in the state of Georgia and all of the states could afford to use this.
And maybe I'll just add, so some of you might be familiar with open timestamps. You can go to opentimestamps.org, you can go scroll down. There's a form right there that'll hash whatever file you want and give you back a timestamp proof, proving that file existed as of that moment in time. And Simple Proof extends this by basically wrapping this as a commercial service. Mm-hmm. So, a notable difference is you can take your file, you give it to Simple Proof, and if you want to, they'll keep a copy of it, and they'll also keep the proof file for you, so you can't screw it up. Simple as that. Obviously, that means you're going to have to go and charge a fee for it, because storing things costs money, but that is really the difference between them. And maybe I'll let you go on a bit further, but I'll definitely have something to go say about how simple this is later. Yeah.
So one of the added benefits of what he was just talking about was when I had people doing open records requests, I could just send them the link that we got, and that gave them the actual document. So it saved us a lot of time that way too, especially since I'm pretty much a one-person office. I have two part-time people, but they're very part-time. So that was really important for us. And that's one of the things, he mentioned how simple it was. Election night is really hectic. And we were able to add that step in, and it took maybe 20 seconds each time we uploaded results. Yes?
For the folks that don't maybe know how it's supposed to work or how other counties do it, could you just give super high level, this is how it typically works, and this is why it's better with this new thing?
Oh, that's a great point.
Thank you.
So normally what we do on election night is as the returns come in. So our county is divided into precincts. My county has 8 precincts. As the poll workers at the precincts bring the results in, we have a memory card that goes in the scanner that we upload, and that gets our results, and we take those results and send them to the state. It's a little bit of a complicated process because the computer that we tabulate the results on is not connected to the internet, so then we have to take it to a computer that is connected to the internet to send those results to the state. The way that it works sending it to Simple Proof was they had set up an email. Immediately after I sent my results to the state, I was able to send the PDF to them, and they had it put up on the Bitcoin blockchain within, most of the time it was within an hour.
And maybe something I'll add there is, when you think about it, what this is doing is, first of all, the Bitcoin thing is saying these results in that format existed as of that point in time. So if in the future there's some questions, but maybe something got changed or so on, you just have a better story to go tell. You have better evidence saying, yeah, this was really created at that point in time, not afterwards when maybe someone figured out they needed to do some election fraud to win an election. And then Simple Proof adds on top of this, because they are a third party who can be trusted to a degree, they add their own level of trusted, trusted logging and so on by the fact that they did receive it and they could say testify in court. Now, obviously, that second part isn't really so relevant in Bitcoin conference, but it's certainly relevant to clients who would love to have both. And and I will stress, none of this is magic. Obviously, if the votes are entered in wrong in the beginning, you're just timestamping false information. But as always, it's so cheap to do, and it just says, hey, this is when the window of opportunity closed to do something bad.
Yes.
Any thoughts about moving that timestamped verification earlier in the process so that it encapsulates more accurately and closes the window of fraud to be more small?
We are working to try to get that, to make that a possibility. At this point, we are doing it at the level that I can control and that I'm in charge of. To do it at an earlier point would involve getting the Secretary of State's office on board with us, and we are working to do that.
That stuff. Sorry. Thank you. How receptive is the state gov? If you can speak to that.
So I represent the state in a number of election-related matters, so I can't speak specifically to sort of how folks are feeling. I will say though that in my time communicating with state officials about Simple Proof and about Stacy's work, the great work she did over in Screven County to kind of pilot this at a more than insignificant level. It's very significant for a county to have piloted this, a Georgia county. There's 159 counties in Georgia. We got the first one right here next to us. So I think she deserves a round of applause for doing that because it's very, very impressive.
So one of the really important things to me was it's not just an overall, it's not like at the end we are putting those results on the blockchain. I do it throughout the night. So I try to do an upload every time a precinct comes in. Now, for bigger counties, they could have hundreds of precincts. Might not be possible, but they could still do it periodically throughout the night. And for me, it's a little bit easier because my people have to drive a ways. There's usually a little bit of time in between. But I have a picture of what the results look like and what that change looks like throughout the night. And not sure how familiar y'all are with elections, but not only do we upload the results to the state, but we also have to post the results outside. And on a local election, one of my concerns was how easy it would be for someone to use AI to make it look like the results were different than what they were. It would be very simple now. They could just take a snapshot of the results I posted, alter it, and make it look like I had released false figures. So it's really important to me to have this proof throughout the night of what our results look like. And it was one of the things our board of elections did get on board with it. But I told them when we were discussing it that if they didn't agree to it, I was going to do it personally just to cover myself because it's my signature that's going on the results. So we didn't just do the results throughout the night. We also uploaded the certification, which occurs the next Monday. And now I also put the Friday night document. So on Friday afternoon, we have to do a pre-certification meeting. I put that information on also. And before the election starts, like at 30 days before the election, we close the voter rolls. And so one of the really neat things that Simple Proof was able to do was they created an app that lets me hash the file without it going to them, because it's very, I can't have all of my voters' information, which includes their social security numbers, driver's license, addresses. I can't have that going out to another party, even though it's a company I trust. So they have created an app that's not connected to the internet, because I will say when I called the SOS office, like, how can I hash a file? What would be your desire? Like, what would be your best practices for how to do this? They were like, I don't know, like you could go to the internet and do that. I was like, that's not the right answer. Ask somebody at a higher pay grade. And they were just like, we don't have a way for you to do that. So they Simple Proof created a protocol so that I could hash that file so that it's kept safe on my computer, but I can put the hash onto the blockchain. So if there was ever a question, we would have a timestamp of the hash to prove that the file had remained the same.
And I'll point out for the people who maybe aren't quite so familiar with this. I mean, remember, hash is just 32 digital bytes. So when you're talking about things like moving it from an offline system to an online, this can be as simple as looking at it, seeing that there's these numbers, but obviously the numbers are way, way smaller than the original data. So clearly, even if it could hypothetically leak like one person's social insurance number, it can't leak them all. Like it's just not possible. It's like trying to fit a Mack truck, through a tiny little hole in a wall. Like it's just not going to happen. But because of the math, it proved that thing did exist prior in the same way as anything else.
And I think someone asked about moving the hashing a little closer to kind of the moment of the vote, and that this privacy that we're talking about here plays a role in that. Because as we were discussing, if we put the timestamp right at the moment of where the vote is cast, in Georgia you have a constitutional right to a secret ballot, a state constitutional right. So by putting it too close to where the moment of the vote is cast, you risk having the ability for someone to reverse engineer the ballot back to where the person checked in at the poll pad. I don't know how familiar you all are with how our process works, but you go and check in. You put your identification credentials at a table, and they show that you're eligible to vote. They give you a card, then you go and you cast your ballot on the BMD typically. So if you timestamp it too close to that, and then they check it and then they vote, you can.
I'll just say BMD being ballot marking device.
Yes, thank you. The ballot marking device. The danger. There's a danger there about compromising some of the voters of Georgia's constitutional rights in the effort, obviously to make sure our elections are as secure as possible. So you always have to have that careful balance. But I think what we're trying to do really is work our way back. So I think doing the certification through Stacy's office was great, and if we can get it a little closer, maybe to at some point to where the votes are actually tabulated and scanned in, I think that's a huge win, because that just reduces that window of compromisability even further than it already is.
And I think something I should point out is, when you're thinking about election fraud, there's certainly a type of election fraud where they just go rig the ballots from the beginning. But the problem with that strategy is it's very easy to screw up and get results that just don't look legit. So if you're actually trying to steal an election for real, in most cases, what you're actually going to do is you want to see the results come in, and then you want to figure out, well, all right, how can I shift things just enough to win without it looking obvious? And that's why time is an important aspect of this. Because when you cut off that window, it just makes it that much harder to come up with a game plan that would actually work. Now, obviously, there's different scenarios. I mean, Russia, they made sure that all their elections are on camera with them stuffing ballot boxes, but they want you to know it's fraudulent. Here in America, I don't think we have that issue.
And not to my knowledge, no. Yeah.
At least you can notice when the counts go down.
Yeah, that's true.
Which has happened, and I don't know if it's the right venue, but any comment on the Fulton County situation?
I do not have comment on that situation. I'm going to let you all come to your own conclusions.
I will say, now, I'm not commenting on the Fulton County situation. There is a possible way that they could go down legitimately if there was an error on the part of the person uploading the results to the state and they accidentally uploaded them too many times. So they try to correct that before it happens. Like, they are supposed to approve our results before it actually gets released to the public. But there is a slight possibility it could happen. But That's not. what I'm
Typically,
talking
that's
about.
not how it's
Yeah.
supposed to work, right? As votes come in, the counts should always go up.
Yes.
Right.
If they go down in a proper system, there'd be an explanation why.
Right.
But probably not the right venue to comment more on that.
I think we got another question over here.
This is Jesus Pizarro. I am the CPA that sent you the invoice. So,
Oh, hey, yes, Carlos said you were going to be here. Nice to see you.
yeah. So my question is, how can we apply simple proof to vote by mail? That is one of the issues. People that vote from remote places, right? Vote by mail. How can we apply blockchain, or in this case, simple proof, to reduce the risk of fraud in the vote by mail?
Well, let me just say a general principle here first. I mean, I'm sure you have a good answer here, but the general principle I'd say is that any circumstance, I mean, I really mean any circumstance, where you are taking data and you're archiving it to be validated later in some way, looked at later in some way, it doesn't matter really what you're doing. So long as it's going to be used later, the question you've got to be asking yourself is, why aren't you timestamping it? Like, in what circumstance, if you're doing something honest, is a timestamp going to be worse off? You always want to go have this kind of record. And in a case like voting by mail, and of course I'm not the expert here, they are, hypothetically, maybe there's some record when it gets received. Surely you would want to timestamp that record. It'll be slightly better than the alternative. Now, they can go say more, but...
Yeah, I was just trying to think through that one. The way that we get our absentee by mail ballots, I think there could be a possibility, but it would be more of marking the envelope that it comes in, because we leave those in the ballot until we get a large portion of them, like until at a certain point just before the election closes, that we go through them. And part of that is to protect voter privacy, because we have to open them in such a way that you can't match the content, the ballot, to the envelope that it came in. But we also have to verify that the envelope, like when it comes in, we have to verify that it comes from someone who is supposed to be voting. So it's a little bit of a complicated process. I do think that there is a way that you could timestamp, like when the ballot arrives into the office. We do that to not on the blockchain. We do have a method that we mark it when it comes in and put it on the state system, but you could also put it on the blockchain. But you would have to make sure that you were vigilant about voter privacy still.
Yeah, and it's just always also a challenge with voting by mail is so inherently physical that it's really hard to, put that on Bitcoin's blockchain or any blockchain. But to the extent that they get mailed, when they're all in sealed envelopes, I think there's actually a sealed envelope within a sealed envelope typically, and then so. When those are first opened at the polling place, that might be when they're scanned in to the precinct scanner, that might be a good place in which you can do your kind of initial timestamp. Again, it doesn't eliminate the possibility of someone tampering with anything, but I think it degrades the time period in which they can do so, and that's all we're trying to do. Again, is really just continue making incremental improvement.
And to that degree, we do put them on the blockchain. The results. So once we go through all of our absentee ballots and we scan them into our central scanner, that's usually our first upload of the night. And so from that standpoint, those results are put on the blockchain. Yes.
Thanks. This is really cool, by the way. Like, awesome. All you guys. So I'm going to say it back to you because I'm simple and I want to make sure I understand this. Right now, in Georgia, we've piloted this in one county. You are doing this. You are timestamping it on the blockchain with simple proof at the county level. There's talk of maybe pushing this ability down to like maybe precinct level at some point, but that's more challenging and TBD.
Possibly. Yeah.
But to your point that you've just made, this should reduce the ability for fraud by a significant amount, right? That's the idea. Even just at the county level, that's a big step, and we've just piloted it, right?
I think it's a big step, and it helps to prevent Well, it helps to increase voter confidence because they can know that the results didn't change overnight.
Right.
Like there should be a documentation of how and why those votes changed. In my case, like with my county, it was very simple because you could see, and there was proof in a timestamp manner that throughout the night, as we got the precincts in, you could see how the votes changed. It's so simple that even as just an insurance, just as one more thing that we can do to make things safer, it was so simple and so inexpensive that to me, I don't understand why it hasn't caught on more, except that a lot of people that are in the positions that could do that don't understand Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain.
And one thing I'll add there in terms of like the simplicity. I mean, I always find your example specifically funny how it's probably the biggest ratio I've ever seen in my professional career of the level of difficulty of the actual thing versus the amount of conference like panels and so on talking about it. It's just mind blowing. All you really need to do is just sign up for one account and go and send some emails, and that's it. Yeah. We're talking on your end, less than 10 minutes of work ultimately. Half an hour of work. It's nothing. And of course, simple proof is one way to do this. And certainly, if you don't want to go pay the money, just go to opentimestamps.org and just do it. You got to keep a small file handy, but you got to keep the original probably anyway. So why not?
So to that point, then, I guess the more broader question, maybe it's for this guy, but I'm not sure. What's next in the state of? Is any other state doing this? Is this being piloted in any other state? That's one question. And then in Georgia, what's the expectation or hope next? Are we going to try to pilot multiple counties or statewide or what?
Yeah, the next step is hearts and minds of the people that have the levers of authority in the state. And so, Stacy has done us a great service in piloting it at Screven County, so we have something we can point to and say, look, this works. And I love the way she describes it because it is really, really simple. And when I talk to folks, everyone loves the idea, but they're like, oh, I can't really mess up my schedule. I've got all this stuff I've got to do. So maybe we'll revisit it. And the key is sort of getting her experience out there and convincing folks at the state level to do this top down.
So I think the most important thing is me understanding Bitcoin had nothing to do with my ability to put the stuff on the Bitcoin blockchain. All I had to do was send an email, which anybody who works in an elections office should be able to do. It was that simple. I sent an email. They've now created an app so you can actually just drag and drop the file. It is so simple, anybody can do it. I think what was important was I had enough understanding of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain that when I heard the idea, I understood it. I spent more time trying to explain the blockchain to my board of elections to get them to approve it than I did actually uploading stuff on the blockchain on election night. I mean, that was like a minute where it took multiple conversations of drawing pictures and trying to come up with analogies to try to get them to understand it. And I think that's one of the most important things, that it's really important for people who understand the blockchain to explain it to the people they know that are in the positions that they could do something about it, because that's the biggest barrier. And when they hear it from somebody that they don't know, it doesn't have as much meaning as like if they were hearing it from somebody that they already know and trust.
For the more tech people audience, I'll be the first person to admit, yes, there's issues with timestamping where maybe you could hypothetically timestamp multiple conflicting things, yada, yada. But that's okay. This is the first step. In the future, we can do something even better that's more strong than timestamping. But, get the easy wins first. And, one of the things I love about it is how, I'll be honest with you, the way you word things, you trip on technical explanations,
yes.
Whatever. Like, there's lots of little details I could have criticized, but so what? Everything you did was correct. Like, you used simple proof exactly the way you were supposed to. I couldn't tell you how differently to use it. You just did everything perfectly because you just don't need to understand a lot to get it right.
And I really do think that's the most important thing, because I have like a very holistic, just kind of vibing understanding of Bitcoin, but it doesn't matter. I'm still able to use it and it works for me. And then one of the other things that I think is very important is it's not just the election night results that we can put on the blockchain, because everybody focuses on the results, but I think one of the bigger issues for election integrity is like the voter registration rolls. That's where you actually have there's a lot that can go wrong there that can allow things to come in, and it's harder to catch that it's wrong. And the fact that I can now verify that those rolls don't change is important to me. So I think that's something that really could have a lot of application as we continue to go forward too.
This is on? Yeah, cool. Thanks. This is really great. Am I understanding this correctly that every county would simply email the results to the Secretary of State? And so you probably could, as they're coming in, I mean, and so you could just CC simple proof at the same time? Not
exactly. We upload them on a platform, and it's changed a couple of times, even in just the 2 years that I've been doing elections. And but the thing is, you're on a computer that has internet access. You upload those forms, and then immediately after that, send the email. It's like a whole 20 seconds extra.
So really, I guess the state could do that. Like the Secretary of State office could just do that on their behalf instead of you doing it on the county behalf, right?
They could, but honestly, I would want to do it myself because I want to verify that nobody changes the results. I mean, I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but I want to verify that my results stay the same as what they were when I got them, not anybody else. So I think there's a lot to be said for it coming from the county level.
But all that would do is just increase the proof, right? Because the hash is the same. If you have the hash of what you sent, and then the Secretary of State uploads the hash of what they received and what they put in, all that does is just increase the proof.
I mean, the thing I'll say to that is you used a bunch of tech words there. We can just keep it simple for now and build on that. You're not wrong, but I think she's absolutely right to say she wants a solution where she can do it and she understands it.
But I'm absolutely fine with the Secretary of State also doing it. It's just I want to have it at my level too, that I have some control and say over.
And one of the things with timestamps in general is timestamp proofs are always additive, right? They just say something existed before this point in time. If the secretary redundantly does this, great. At the end, you'll have two different things that ultimately confirm the same fact.
And I would just say too, beyond the election context, simple proof has use cases that I think are really worth exploring. Whether it's the code of Georgia's official code of Georgia, everything's stored online now. I don't know if you all saw the the actual document of the Constitution on the Library of Congress website was altered briefly for it was a couple hours by somebody. Don't know who did it, but they took away the habeas corpus position. Now, as a lawyer, I can tell you that it has no legal effect, but it freaked a lot of people out. And, one thing that would be nice to have is a timestamp of the Library of Congress's version of the Constitution so that we have something to compare that hack against. But more seriously, in more subtle laws, state ordinances, things like that, where you don't know what they say, there could be problems with AI deepfakes and hacks and things like that you could avoid by timestamping your documents.
I mean, one of the simple proof goals is we'd really love to go see, I'm not going to get the right term for it, but the U.S. National Archives institution. My understanding is they've basically switched to digital first, so everything gets digitized or comes in digital form to begin with. And obviously, why aren't you timestamping this? That's sort of your bare minimum. And it's as free as you want it to be. I mean, simple proof, they'd love to go and charge some money, but if money is an issue, just use the open source version.
I think we're out of time, so thank you.